So, one of the big things to take away from the Hartlepool by-election, and pretty much all of the areas that Labour lost in what we call the Red Wall, there is really a prevailing mood. And it really does seem to be that, and especially in Hartlepool, and is it true for the other areas? I think we could very well say that. But you see a very, very clear statement of a lot of these voters who switched their votes over to Tories or voted Tory for the very first time after all this time, after constantly saying, oh, we've been ignored. So, we're going to vote for the party that has been in power for a long time and is primarily responsible for many of the bad economic plights many of these towns are now in. Like I say, if you saw the interview of Sky on Hartlepool of that guy and his son, where for some bizarre reason, again, I don't know why, he blames the loss of the Hartlepool hospital and the police station there on Labour. So, as a bit of curiosity, I went back and I found in the local newspaper, I found several articles at that time written by the former Labour MP calling on Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock to reverse these decisions to help do this. And ultimately, the hospital was lost by the Tories through austerity and ultimately Matt Hancock essentially, pulling the trigger. Same for the police station by Priti Patel when they reduced the budget for these, for police stations. Shocking, I know, but it's again people voting against their best interests. And now we have a whole series of regions who have got IOUs. Boris has literally written them a whole series of IOUs, and sooner or later those are going to be called in. And that is when things are not going to start going well for Boris Johnson. Because, hey, the people in Hartlepool voted, we voted Tory, so now we want our money. Where is it? Those conversations are going to be very, very interesting, and the Tories are not going to be able to get out of it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in today's article. So before we jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And thank you to all those people that do support me that way, or just hit the like and share button. Every little bit helps. So, on with this. So this comes from The Guardian, and the title is Labour's Chance Will Come When Boris Johnson's Bogus Promises Start to Crumble. Labour is doing what Labour does best after defeat, picking itself up, dusting itself down, and starting all over again by knocking the living daylights out of itself. Since last Friday's disastrous result in Hartlepool, blame has been scattered in every bile-filled civil wars as they resume. Whatever happened, Keir Starmer's appearing to scapegoat Angela Rayner with the bungled fire and rehire was a bad response. As ever, Labour's most decisive figures have been re-emerging and blaming Jeremy Corbyn, blaming Tony Blair. Advice pours out. Andy Burnham says that the party has lost emotional connection with the people. A Tory focus group finds that voters think Labour is too concerned with itself. Spot on. Overall, the results of the local elections give the Tories 36%, with Labour on 29%. Only a bit better than the 12-point deficit it lagged behind at the 2019 general election. All Labour's fault? Hardly. Consider this. There will never be again such a golden election winning moment for Boris Johnson. This great charlatan of a salesman, gifting credit for vaccine liberation, and the country explodes with optimism. Labour never had a chance against the country's soaring growth predictions, a house price boom that is gushing cash to homeowners, ready to spend the billions extra that some households have been saving during the pandemic. And here comes the return of the travelling and hugging. You only need to look at the frisson of the election week naval standoff in Jersey to see that Brexit is still Labour's killer. Analysts warning that he still underpins that avalanche of Tory voters. Listen to the contradictions. 1. Frontbench MPs argue that Labour must now completely change the way it goes about things, and yet put forward an authentic policy that offers and matches the challenges facing the country. While Nathan Yowo and Luke Arnhurst of Labour First, the Labour moderates, prescribe appealing to the massive slice of the public who is older or a car driver or a homeowner or who voted for Brexit. Well, yes, but which should it do? Change or be authentic? And authentically what? The heart of Labour's core support beats strongly a Remainer, pro-poor, anti-colonial, pro-public services. They have no problem with the flag and the loving the country. But Labour people are patriotically proud of different British things to the Tories. I have no hard solutions to Labour's upended identity. It was founded to serve the working class. That has changed. But it doesn't help to hear that Labour people spit in contempt at its new backbone of supporters because they're not considered traditionally working class. Thanks to young people, graduates, urbanites, Remainers, the liberal-minded, the socially connected metropolitans, Labour now counts many mayors in strongholds such as Bristol, Manchester, London and the west of England. Many of these people who joined Labour are public servants, NHS workers, teachers, charities and non-professional employees, trade union members, public interest lawyers, researchers, food bank organisers, social and care workers. The only drawback is there's not enough of them. Governments fall, oppositions don't win. This was not time for change. This will prove to have been the peak of Johnsonism. Once COVID is over, the Prime Minister must honour all his ballooning hot air promises. And he won't be spraying out IOUs for everything, stealing Labour lines on inequality and replacing them with levelling up, and making pork barrel pledges just to about everyone. He can't be as lavish with every English, Scottish and Welsh and Northern Ireland region as he was with Ben Houchison's Teesside. Johnson's rural and coastal MPs in the south are resentive for losing out. His green targets for the COP26 sound good, but he has yet to spell out which of the difficult steps will actually to reach them are. However, his promises collide with the Treasury reality. Those stuck in the flats with dangerous cladding he pledged to, quote, no leaseholder should have to pay for the unavoidable costs, but he made MPs vote against the help. No one would have come to sell their home to pay for social care, he pledged. Yet, there is to be no social care bill in the Queen's speech. Johnson has promised an education catch-up and a lifetime of further education guarantees, but the money just isn't there. The recent budget didn't even approach the funding that it would need to be to support his future Ponzi schemes. Instead, the Institute for Fiscal Studies warns that the austerity plans means an 8% cut to most departments. Meanwhile, spending on the NHS needs to rise above 102 billion over the next decade. Johnson can't fool enough people forever. So what if he really does carry all this out? Let's hope he does. But the fences on his benches don't look ready to revise the Tory credo. Labour's task is to now hold him to every pledge and to every plan, a Joe Biden-sized anti-austerity alternative that would make levelling up and the Green promises a reality. The party should gather those local leaders, the mayors, and lead on a Labour policy exposing the broken Tory pledges on their home ground. There is one necessarily. Labour must start to work now on a progressive alliance that openly embraces ideas from the outside, with proportional representation to prove it is no longer trapped in a self-defeating tribalism. Dare to abandon the old feuding international sections of candidates and instead try open primaries inviting all in for local voters to help choose new talent. As for Labour, its self-laceration, it needs to stop now. The party will win in the right time, when the flag it planted in the ground beckons enough people from every walk of life to deliver on all those expectations that were raised and then dashed by Boris Johnson's bogus promises. And I ultimately agree. I have been saying this for the past couple of weeks since I was seeing what Joe Biden's been doing in America. The plan that he released for, what is it called, the American Recovery Plan, is amazing. They're spending something in the region of about 40%, I think it is, of America's GDP. Why can't we do that here? You know, these things need to be done. You want to save the steel industry? Then it needs to invest in a post-carbon neutral future. And they can't do that unless they get that investment. That will help to secure hundreds of thousands of jobs here in the north and help to grow that industry here. We need to invest in new green technologies. We need them now more than ever. And having a full-on green recovery would be absolutely fantastic. So Keir Starmer generally going out and saying, okay, Boris Johnson said this. But as we've said so many times before, these are promises and checks that he just cannot cash. They're phony promises. We've seen them all before. We saw the Northern Powerhouse. We saw how nothing of that came to fruition. That's the exact same noises that the Tories are currently making about levelling up. You know, new leader, same Tories. They are not about to suddenly revise their credo. And like I say, there is an 8% cut coming to all departments. Austerity is back on the menu pretty much next year. And it could get even worse than that. And Labour has a fantastic opportunity to really build forward and, you know, propel to create a new identity. And I agree, all this infighting needs to be put aside. I agree that local primaries for selecting the candidate would be a fantastic way forward for Labour to help select new candidates and bring in new talent into the party. I think the idea of a progressive alliance is an absolutely fantastic idea if it can be done. But we need to start that push now. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a link to a one-off donation link. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.